Hey friends, welcome to the Friday Drive. Welcome back to the Friday Drive. I've been traveling for the last 2 weeks, and I don't do Friday Drives when I travel, but been in the office this week. It's been great to kind of reconnect with everybody and get reestablished on some of these patterns. Hey, our topic for today, just to get right into it, is the idea of word pictures. Okay, and so as leaders, a lot of times we're trying to share a concept, we're trying to communicate something that may be a little bit complex, or maybe we make it that way, or we're having a hard time, sort of letting people know what it is that we're after. Sometimes using a word picture, an analogy, a metaphor, can bring some of that and help people connect to the idea that you're trying to share. Let me give you an example. So early on in my marriage, I traveled a lot. My wife was home with the kids and that sort of thing, and I would come home and sort of disrupt the whole thing. She'd have, a routine going on, and she'd have everybody kind of organized, and I'd show up and be the fun dad, and she'd get mad at me for it, quite frankly. And I'd be out having lunches with people and all kinds of stuff, so feeling very fulfilled in my career. And I'd come home and I'd wonder why she was mad at me, right? Again, this is in the first couple years of our marriage, so it was a little rough. It was really interesting because she went to a seminar by a guy named Gary Smalley, and he came back and he said, use word pictures. And so one day I came home from work, and there was a bag sitting on the kitchen table, and it was a doggy bag from a restaurant. It was all greasy at the bottom, and it had just some scraps of food in it and things like that. And I said, hey, what is this? And she said, this is kind of how I feel when you get home. She goes, this is what I get when you get home. I get the leftovers. You're out to lunch with people, you're having, a great time, you're traveling, you're doing all these things, and I feel like I get what's left after that. What's really interesting about that is she was trying to tell me that before all that happened, and I didn't hear it. I couldn't hear it because I really didn't understand the concept of what she was saying. I didn't understand the problem. But when she used the word picture and she put that bag on the table and said, this is how I feel, something clicked inside of me. I thought, oh man, I have never wanted her to feel this way. And of course that's not what I was trying to do. But it helped me feel it. It helped me understand it at a whole different level, at a kind of global conceptual level, not just, trying to get to the details and all this kind of stuff. Why do I tell you this story? Well, as leaders, a lot of times that's how your people hear you. You can tell them the concept. You can be very, tactical about it. You can be very concrete about it. But sometimes a story will allow them to connect, because story is the great elixir of empathy. Story is the great elixir that allows people to kind of connect with you and what that is. And so maybe you're trying to explain to somebody why this particular project is running into snags, for example. Well, you might use the analogy of building a building. And you might say it's almost like we built the plumbing before we put in the wall, before we put in the electric or whatever. You can kind of find ways of doing that. A lot of times I'll use this is I'll come into an organization and I'll say, you got a lot of bent pipes here, and they'll go, what do you mean bent pipes? And I'll say, well, you've clearly changed the rules for some people. For them to be able to do certain things in your organization that you haven't done for other people. And so you've bent the pipe to fit the house, as opposed to the most efficient way is to not bend the pipe. And so we've got a lot of pipes to unbend so that this house is healthier, so that things can flow through it a lot easier, right? And people will understand that. And so whatever that is, think creatively about how you're going to share your next concept, the next problem you want to solve, whatever that is, by using a word picture, by using an analogy, by using a metaphor, because a lot of times that's what people need to connect to what that is, okay? So that's the thought. If you want to talk more about it, let's jump on a call. I'm happy to answer any questions I can to kind of help you learn how to do this. Secondly, I want to tell you about something that's going on at Five Capitals. We've got a thing called Mom Blazers. One of our coaches, Dina, is actually putting this together. I've attached the link to the PDF so you guys can take a look at it. This is actually for those of you who run companies or who run organizations. Maybe you're in HR or whatever that is, and you've got folks in your organization who are either pregnant, who are or they're postpartum, right? And through that entire journey, how do they navigate the things that go on in your folks' heads that are, is my career going to be okay? Am I going to be a good mom? Am I going to be, somebody who knows how to do this, all the questions that come with that, all the anxiety that happens with it. A lot of times that can derail a career, can sort of force some decisions that maybe aren't healthy or whatever. Well, Dina has built a cohort around this for anybody that they can come into it and they can go out of it at any time. And it's going to be an amazing thing. It's a little bit niche, but if you've got folks in your organization, what a great way to invest in them. The price is very reasonable. It's $250 a month. And again, it's a 3-month minimum commitment, but after 3 months, they can go in and out however they want, okay? And so I put that in there. You can read about it and see more about it. I highly encourage, if you've got folks in your organization that are in this stage of life and going through transitions like this, really, really good opportunity for that, okay? And then thirdly, just in the same vein of what we were talking about before, the art of storytelling, I've attached an article on how story can be used in leadership, how story can be used to drive some things home in your organization. Definitely give that a read. I think it's going to be a really, really valuable tool for you in terms of thinking about why this is so important and the way we communicate to our people. Okay? So that's it for the Friday Drive. I appreciate you guys being here, and we'll be back next week with another one. Talk soon.